Danny Ainge, general manager of the Boston Celtics, former player in the NBA, and a former BYU Cougar. Thank you so much for being part of Three Questions today.
Good to be here, Bob.
Now that you have Gordon Hayward, will you please give him back?
I think we'll let him stay and see how it works out in Boston. I think it's going to be a good marriage for him in Boston.
I said please.
I know. Listen, it's not in all of my control. Gordon chose us, and we're very excited about him. And he had 7 great years here in Utah, and we're excited to see him in Boston.
Gordon Hayward explained pretty much how this whole thing came about from his angle. From the Celtics angle, how did you acquire Gordon Hayward?
Gordon has a relationship with our head coach and one of our top assistant coaches, Micah Shrewsbury, along with Brad Stevens. And, we had him as a priority, as a top priority free agent potential. We had preserved cap space for the last couple of years in free agency. We went after Kevin Durant last year. If we had gotten Kevin Durant, we wouldn't have had space for Gordon. We didn't get Kevin Durant, and we signed 1-year contracts and prepared for this summer for free agency. And Gordon was high on the free agent list. And I was a little worried that his and Brad's relationship might interfere with that, just because they had a good relationship in college, and oftentimes people don't want to tarnish a lifelong relationship with the pressure-packed world of the NBA. And but I think that relationship was bonded on a visit on July 2nd, and we felt like the meeting went really well, but we had no idea what Gordon was going to do.
You were in on that meeting, were you not?
I was, for part of that meeting, yeah.
What happened in that meeting between Gordon and his former college coach that really kind of turned the deal for him, that you could sense?
I'm not sure what turned the deal. I mean, you'd have to ask Gordon that, but my take on it is that Gordon is about winning, and he's about basketball, and I think that the most important part of his visit with all 3 of the teams was about winning and how he would be utilized and who he'd be playing with, and an opportunity for him to win a championship.
So how are things working out so far? Do you feel like he's fitting in the way you had hoped he would?
Well, we haven't really done much. I mean, he's been working out this summer. We've had some of our trainers and coaches down there working out with him, but we haven't even started yet. So I'm very excited for the season. I think Gordon's very excited, and our fans are very excited as well.
The rumors are flying about Kyrie Irving right now. There's no secret that he kind of wants to leave the Cavaliers. Are you trying to get him? Boston?
I can't comment on any of that. That's confidential information on what teams we talk to, so I don't really confirm nor deny trade rumors. Sorry, Bob.
I have a 17-year-old son who's dying to know. Frank Jackson. You know about Frank Jackson. He came out of Lone Peak High School, went to Duke, and now he's in the NBA. Tell me about him. What have you seen, and what are you impressed with?
Well, he had a terrific freshman year, I thought, at Duke. I mean, Duke had a lot of talent, and it took him a little while to get in that mix. But by the time the ACC tournament rolled around, he was a terrific player for them and played a major role in their ACC championship. And I think he has a very bright future. He's a strong young kid and can shoot, tough. I think he has a very, very bright future.
Would the Celtics ever be interested in acquiring him?
You know, Bob, I can't talk about players on other teams like that, but he's a terrific talent, and we have 450 players in the NBA, and there's a lot of really good players, and all these young kids that are full of potential. I mean, the world is full of unfulfilled potential, and but I would say that Frank definitely has a ton of potential.
When you're putting together a team in the NBA of NBA caliber and quality, what is it that you're looking for in individual players to make a spot on the Celtics?
Well, that's a complex question. I mean, there's obviously a lot of things we're looking for. We're looking for size and athleticism and skills, and And then, you know, all the intangible things, the character and work ethic and, you know, great teammates. And, you know, very few players are everything in that package, but we're looking for all those characteristics.
Just because you've got maybe a Kyrie Irving or a Gordon Hayward or any other player, LeBron James, for example, just because they are a standout in the NBA doesn't necessarily mean they would fit into the Celtic organization. Is that correct?
I think most great players that you just mentioned would fit into any organization. You know, when you're a transcendent player and you're elite, I think that you find a way. You know, I played with many Hall of Fame players in my career, and the great players have an ability to adapt and fit in. It's the rest of the players. It's the average players, the role players in the league, which are very important, that are the pieces that have to find a way and find a role and find a way to contribute to a team. But typically the transcendent players, they can fit in anywhere.
Sports plays a huge role in the American social fabric. Does it play too big a role?
In my opinion, I mean, I know I've seen and heard from people that, you know, sports have saved lives. I've heard from elderly people that watch games religiously, and, you know, in their later years, it's like what they look forward to every day. So it's hard to say that it plays too big of a role. But there are times that I think that people take it a little bit out of context. It is a game. I mean, I have a perspective from a player, a coach, a general manager. I've played those roles. I've been a father and a grandfather watching my kids play sports, and I think that, you know, I think that it can be taken out of context, but at the same time, it's very important.
What is it you like most about sports?
I think it can bring people together. You know, I've had 4 sons that have served missions that, you know, will tell you that some of their greatest missionary companions were athletes, and they just, you know how to compete. They know how to, you know, meet people. They, you know, like athletics brings a lot of greatness in people. I think also the element of when, you know, we have 9/11, and, you know, sports brings our country together at times when the national anthems are sung, and I mean, there's so many great things that happen as a result of sports in our society. So I think that those are the great things I think about it. Is it's a game. It's a game that we love. I've made a 40-year career out of playing sports, and it's, you know, I'm grateful for sports. I love sports. I've been a big part of my life.
What brings you to Salt Lake City, and how often do you come?
I come to Salt Lake quite a bit. I like to plan my scouting schedule during the season. I like to watch the Pac-12 games at University of Utah. I like to scout the WCC and catch BYU games. Now I have a son playing for Utah State, and so we'll watch some of their conference games, Mountain West games at Utah State, try to catch them in Logan. So I try to get here often. I have a lot of family and a lot of great friends, lifelong friends that live in Provo and Salt Lake, and so I try to get here whenever I can.
You know, recently, because of the Gordon Hayward trade, you are kind of persona non grata here. Did you sense that when you were sitting above the dunk tank?
I get it. I understand it. I know how Utah fans are. I know how they love their teams. You know, I understand that part of the business, but, you know, like I'm just doing my job, and I'm paid to work for the Boston Celtics, and I have all the respect in the world for Jazz fans, the Jazz organization, the Miller family, what they've done for this region, for what they've done for the Mormon Church, what they've done for the community and for the NBA. And I think that Quinn Snyder and Dennis Lindsay are 2 of the top coaches and executives in the NBA, and I follow Utah football. Coach Whittingham and I were college classmates and have a lot of mutual friends, and I'm a big fan of Larry Krastowiak at University of Utah, the head basketball coach. So like we have so many ties in the state of Utah, and I love the mountains. I love Park City. I love the seasons of Utah. There's not very much to not like about Utah.
When are you going to come to work for the Jazz?
I'm happy with where I'm at. I mean, working for the Celtics is a dream come true. Being drafted by the Celtics was a dream for me. I was playing professional baseball at the time, and at that time, probably headed that direction after my senior year of college at BYU. But had I not been drafted in 1981 by the Celtics or by the Lakers, I probably would have continued my baseball career.
Was that a difficult decision for you?
It was a difficult decision, yeah, very difficult.
What made it so difficult for you?
Baseball was in my blood also. My father was a baseball player and a basketball player, but baseball, I was already playing Major League Baseball at the time. I felt like I had a very bright future, and it just logically, you look at baseball, it's a sport you can play forever. And in basketball, the NBA wasn't near as popular in 1981 as it is today.
Let's talk about Tanner for just a second. I mean, you're here, you got dunked in the water a couple of times. Was getting dunked how many times? 8 times?
Yeah, 8 to 10 times.
8
probably.
to 10 times.
Yeah.
Was it worth it for Tanner?
I think so. I mean, we just had a fun time more than anything. We just had a lot of people there, and the majority of the event was not the dunking. It was the introducing Tanner and letting Tanner speak to the people that showed up, and just so they can get a better chance of knowing who he is and what he's about.
As the father of a budding politician here in Utah, what is your advice to him?
My advice to him is I don't really need to give him much advice. I mean, Tanner is a very calm and patient and smart young man, and he's been a very impressive kid most of his life. It's been a joy raising him and watching him grow into a man and a father and a husband, and he doesn't really need much advice from me.
What are his odds of making it to Congress?
So I don't know that. I don't follow the political, the polls and the media all that much, quite honestly. I got a busy job to do daily, and I'm supporting Tanner. And, I just look at Tanner as a potential superstar. I mean, it's like we just talked about in basketball. I mean, I think Tanner's opponents are good politicians, and they have more experience, and sure they're good guys, and I don't know that much about them, but Tanner's a star. I think Tanner's a transcendent. He could go to Congress and make a huge difference, as opposed to being one of 435 people. I think he has a chance, more than his opponents, just from what I've seen, to be special.
What's on the horizon for the Boston Celtics? I mean, is this the year that you're going to go all the way and win an NBA championship?
I don't know. I don't know yet. We haven't even had a day of training camp, and I don't know what our team is going to look like. On September 25th, our first day of camp. So maybe we could talk a little more in October and have a little more realistic expectations on what our team can be.
Now, will you be back then? I mean, can we expect you to come back during the season, or are you going to stay out there?
I'll be here during the season for sure, because, like I said, I have a son playing at Utah State, and this is I love watching college basketball in the state of Utah, so I'll be around for sure.
You mentioned that the NBA is probably second in the nation in terms of popularity in professional sports, the NFL probably being number one. What is it that is driving the NBA to greater heights? Is it players like LeBron and Michael Jordan, who is, of course, retired, but still his spirit lingers,
Sure, Michael's had a huge impact on the NBA. I think that there's a lot of history in the NBA, a lot of great players before we were born. They were great, but I think that the game sort of changed with Larry and Magic in that era, and then Michael just took it to another level, and And now we have a lot of great players, and Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson at Golden State. You know, they're this elite team, and LeBron James. You know, Russell Westbrook had a historic season last year, and James Harden both did. I mean, there's a lot of great players, and I think the game is getting better. And, you know, a lot of people I run into say, oh, you know, the game was so much better in the 1980s and, you know, all this, but I don't see that. I see the game, in the NBA game, getting better and better. More people are playing, better coaching, better training. Players are working harder in the off seasons. You know, I think the game is getting better.
Why do you think that is? Why is it getting better?
I think it's getting better because of the training and you know, probably because of the money, and there's so much at risk and there's a lot at stake. You know, players want to be part of that, and the competition is great, and people around the world have been playing basketball more. We have players from China and South America, Argentina, Brazil, and we have, you know, almost every European country we have NBA players, and it's a worldwide sport, and you know, out of 450 players, I think 20% of them are from foreign countries, and I think that makes for an exciting game.
For those young players coming up who have their eyes and their sights set on the NBA, and not just the NBA, but they want to be the next Michael Jordan, they want to be the next LeBron James or Kyrie Irving or Russell Westbrook, what would you say to them in their early years that will put them on the path to greatness in the NBA?
Well, I mean, you know, those players that you mentioned are so special and so unique. I mean, you can't be one of them if you're not, you know, 6'8" and a locomotive. You know, like, it's just they're so specially gifted physically. But, you know, physically is not enough. I mean, they need to be smart. They need to have a great work ethic. LeBron James is an extremely hard worker and has worked hard to get where he was. And Michael Jordan, the stories are legendary. Karl Malone, you know, like, the stories are legendary of how they became great. It's not just the physical package, but most kids, you know, don't have that opportunity because they don't have that physical package. And so that's why so many people fall in love with, you know, Isaiah Thomas from Boston, and John Stockton from Utah, and Steve Nash, and, like, you know, those guys that are ordinary physically, although, you know, Stockton had some pretty big hands and long arms for a guy his size and great strength, but they just work extremely hard, they're amazingly intelligent, competitive, and extremely smart. I mean, they have a lot of the things that make for successful people.
I guess it's safe to say that if they would have chosen any other field to go into, they would have been tremendously successful because they had the ingredients for greatness before they got a basketball in their hands.
I think a lot of them, yes, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a lot of great players, maybe not, but I mean, I'm impressed every year with the young kids that are coming in the NBA and how special they are. I think, you know, I've watched Utah Jazz young kid, Donovan Mitchell, grow up. He's played against my youngest son in the Knapsack League up in New Hampshire, and what a terrific kid and a terrific player. I mean, with an amazing upside. You know, watching these kids grow and blossom it's fun to see, and I just think that, you know, our league is full of them, and these young and up-and-coming players.
Well, Danny Ainge, General Manager of the Boston Celtics, former NBA player and former BYU Cougar. Thank you so much for being part of Three Questions.
Thanks for having me, Bob.